I've been a journalist for a long time and covering science and technology and telecom and related sectors. So when I applied for fellowship, it was in the second round a long time ago. And I had this idea that since I've been covering this sector of information technology and technology in general in India for a long time, why not put together a longer story and write a book? So it was my first attempt to think of writing a book, and I'd little bit research and all I had started. And then when I applied and I was one of the fellows selected, and the idea really took concrete shape after I was selected for the fellowship. Some ideas, some suggestions came from the interviews, and then I talked to more people, Ram and others, and so that the whole idea that we should have a book on the panoramic history of information technology in India, because there were a lot of notions about IT industry at that time that it is just a post-liberalization phenomenon. It is due to the opening up of the economy, and some thought it was because of the computer policies in the 1980s. But when I really started researching, and the story goes back, it went back to the 1940s when the first computers came into India. So that's how it became a larger story. So when I started, it was not supposed to be a long story, but eventually it became a long story. And that kind of, I can say that was the first book which was attempted on documenting a modern sector, a post-independent industrial sector where India had done exceedingly well, which was information technology. So that's how the book came out in 2009, and it was quite well received, I would say. Then it went in for an international edition in 2015, which is still available and is still cited, and a lot of people still get back to me seeking some comments and things like that. So it has stayed on for the past 15 years. And what happened after that is that a number of books started coming out on IT industry from people from inside. Like I wrote a lot about the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Bhabha's role. So TIFR itself came out with a book on computers, and then they talked to me, and my book was cited by many people in that book. So what I mean is that it triggered a lot of interest in the history of IT in India. So I think that has been a satisfying journey starting with this fellowship. See, many people look at it from one particular angle. Suppose if you talk to an industry person, and first of all, it's a more recent phenomenon. It is something which has happened in the lifetime of people like me and several others of my generation. We have seen the change happening. So there are a lot of misconceptions. There are preconceived notions, and who were the players, and what triggered this whole thing. Was it the policies? Was it the entrepreneurship? Was it the demand side? Because there was a demand for software from in export market. So there are various ways people were looking at, but nobody really looked at how it all started. The basic question which I addressed in this book was that how did Indians come to acquire those skills of writing software? At a time when there was no software industry in India, there was no demand in the domestic market. How did we start exporting it then? So there were two questions which I addressed basically, that what were the environment, what are the factors and drivers which led to developing those skills? Because even IITs didn't teach computer science in the 60s and 70s when they were started. So from where did we acquire those skills, and how did we get into the export business, and what are those factors? So I think that's where that's the contribution I suppose my book has made, looking at that journey which people often neglect. First of all, it is the very early investment which we made in higher technical education, which could be IITs, which could be institutes like TIFR or IIT Kanpur, or even public sector industries like ECIL, Computer Maintenance Corporation, which got into not only the software, in fact, into fabrication of computers, developing that indigenous capacity So that was the thing, because if you look at India of the 60s and 70s, the thrust was on developing self-reliance, so to say, or import substitution. That was the focus of economic policies. So we developed those, capabilities. And when the policy environment changed in the 80s and late 80s, and the software technology parks came and things sort of opened up, those skills came very handy, and they moved to the private sector. So very often the role of the state is neglected, and that's what I emphasize, that the role of state in promoting the software industry, creating a positive environment for it, and even generating skills through state-funded institutions. I think that was very vital, and that's not which is recognized very often. There has been a change in the sense, of course, exports are a mainstay. I mean, out of $200 billion, so much of it is coming from the export. But there is the positive thing is that the domestic consumption of technology has gone up in the past 20 years or 30 years. And that has led to some sort of creativity and innovative products which are meant for the Indian market. I mean, for example, we have most of the, foreign R&D companies setting up in India and developing products for their, global value chains. But some of that is, being done for Indian market as well. So the change is that, of course, exports remain the thrust of the industry, but there's since there is a lot of domestic demand and consumption, there is innovation happening at that level, in the sense to cater to the needs of the Indian market, domestic market. So that is a change. We may not see innovation in the sense of a completely new product like iPhone or anything like that, but there are a lot of interesting applications of technology which are specific to the Indian market. That's a big change which has happened. Which if you look at in the sense of larger application of ICTs or even digital technologies, as I mentioned, that UPI is one of the India-made solution. I mean, that's the largest application of digital transactions anywhere in the world. If you look at the number of transactions which are happening, which is a completely homegrown solution for a problem, where we have taken a leapfrog. I mean, a whole generation of people which did not have access to credit cards, they suddenly got into a digital payment mode through this frugal innovation, which is high-tech innovation, but the application is frugal, so to say, and it is an Indian solution. So there are applications like that which are happening in different areas, and again we are building upon our strength. There are Indian companies involved. There are, same ecosystem of higher technical education is contributing to that. So there is a change, yes. I think there is a lot of pessimism in India about that we have not done anything, or we don't do the things the way the world does. But I believe that we have innovated in various ways. Even if you look at, say, computerized reservation system, which was introduced way back in 1985, and now that you are able to do it on your mobile phone, book a ticket, and look at the volumes of the data which is happening. I mean, the reservations which happen on that system. So the point is that there are technologies touching the way the lives of ordinary people in ways which we may not have considered, which we take it for granted even today, so that way. So there is a change which is more silent in that sense. But yeah, we need to have more of that, say, for example, in education, in healthcare. There are a number of problems which need to be addressed. They may not be tailor-made solutions available from elsewhere. So we need to cater to that. And that's a very optimistic view, one has to take. Of course, there are issues relating to data privacy, and that's those concerns. I'm not denying those concerns. Those are very valid concerns, but we cannot say that we'll not go ahead with technology because of those issues, but we go ahead with the use of technology applications which are useful for people and take care of all those concerns as well. So I think that is the way forward too.